Hello and welcome to Glitch Cube, we're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. As always, I'm Christian.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again as we dive further into the world of games. So this week we are going to be discussing a kind of hot topic right now, surprisingly, in gaming. When we first thought about
hot.
Yeah, that's funny, actually. Go climate change. But we are going to be discussing something that surprisingly has popped up in gaming media a lot lately, specifically over one title, but it really wasn't anything that was discussed when we first thought about this idea. So that's what makes it rather interesting. But we're going to be talking about eco-terrorism in video games. Now, there aren't really like a lot of games out there that really discuss or put you in the shoes of an eco-terrorist. But there are some titles out there that make you the one that's actually destroying the planet. There's actually quite a few of those out there, surprisingly. Well, not really surprisingly. But eco-terrorism and like rebelling against a shadowy corporation that is draining the lifeblood or, just kind of wreaking havoc on the world around us, stealing resources is nothing really new. It's something that's been used in media quite a bit. Right, with the fear of nuclear energy or just other aspects of that the side effects of those things, the horror stories we hear of Chernobyl and everything, like it's all there as like scare tactics against these kind of things. But as far as games go, it's not really like a hot topic that's usually touched on quite a bit, or at least it's not really put up in the forefront. But we found some games that actually put you in the shoes of an eco-terrorist, or something that could symbolize that with one of the games that we'll be discussing later. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about some outside media, right? One, maybe not games. To kind of give people a little bit of frame of reference about where people's mindsets might be at, where their cultural references might be coming from, those kind of things. So everybody, I'm sure, I would hope at least, because if you don't know what Godzilla is, then I don't know why you're listening to this, honestly. Just kidding. I mean, but like I have a weird obsession / love for Godzilla. Like I still have my Godzilla action figure from when I was a child, and it's literally on my desk right next to me. Like that thing is gone with me everywhere, and I will not get rid of this thing.
Is it the Godzilla from like that 2000s movie, the skinny one with the weird spikes?
Hell no, that's not Godzilla at all, but this thing is classic Godzilla.
Hey, that was cool, man. It got me so into Taco Bell at the time.
Oh,
I remember that
God,
you got
those
the cool
commercials.
cups.
Oh
Yes.
my God. No. It's not the Yoketo Taco Bell Godzilla. This is the legit Godzilla. I think I got this thing when I was like 5 years old, and I still have it. And it's like in perfect condition still. It's amazing. Maybe I'll post a picture of it on the socials because I think it's just so great. But Godzilla is known for being a crazy monster fighting other monsters. That's what it's become. It's like the Rocky of giant monsters in a way, right? It's always going up against some crazy force that definitely should not be able to beat. Sometimes gets their ass beat, comes back, and just wins. And that's just how Godzilla goes. But the original 1954 Godzilla was actually designed as a horror movie. It was there to scare people. Like that was the whole premise behind Godzilla. And it makes sense, right? It came out 9 years after the Hiroshima bombings. So people were still very afraid of nuclear energy and nuclear bombs in particular. It was still very fresh in their minds. So they made this movie as a way to scare people from the effects of nuclear power and, just using it as a destructive force. And Godzilla was the personification of that bomb and used to scare the crap out of people. And a couple little fun facts. Godzilla's original roar from 1954 was actually made by someone wearing a rubber glove and rubbing it on a cello. Yeah, the Foley work is amazing. It's so funny that classic sound comes from that. And the Godzilla costume for every single movie has been remade. So every single movie, it is a brand new costume that in the first one weighed so much. I think it weighed almost 200 pounds, and there was no air in it whatsoever, that the actor playing Godzilla passed out multiple times during the filming of that movie. So it's kind of crazy to think about, right? But there's a museum out there that has every single Godzilla costume from every movie, and I think that's really cool to see. And the fact that they rebuilt it every time, it's pretty amazing, right? But nuclear energy is definitely something that can be pulled from as far as a reference for gaming. And we see it in one game in particular. And to our opinion, we both feel like this might be the best representation of eco-terrorism in video games, or at least being a part of an eco-terrorist group. And that's Final Fantasy VII. Right? Like, you're actually in Avalanche. You get worked in with them. They hire you as a merc for a job. You know, you're working with Barrett, Tifa, Wedge, all those guys, you know, and you're actually there to fight against Shinra. And for those of you who don't know the story of Final Fantasy VII, I guess we can go over it real quick. So they're draining the lifeblood of the earth to power their machines. And the lifeblood is called Mako, and the Mako is being used for energy, for resources, but it's also being used to change humans. So there's a military faction, and there's some people in there that are called soldiers or soldier first class, and they actually get exposed to high levels of Mako to make them basically superhumans. So it's mutating them to a certain extent, right? So it's kind of interesting that they're taking this idea where it's so clearly nuclear energy, right? Like, that's the reactors even look that way. And what's funny is like Mako is liquid, and one of the byproducts of there's a lot of liquid in nuclear facilities, things like that, right? It's a byproduct that they are able. The only way to keep it safe, basically, is to keep it submerged underwater. So because the water acts as a nice bubble and barrier from the radiation, to a certain extent, right? Like, still some leaks, but if we didn't have that, then the whole area would just be completely toxic. So I always thought that was really interesting, especially in the remake, when you really get to see that, like, you're surrounded by this liquid in the core, right? And it really mimics what a nuclear reactor kind of does. It's pretty fascinating. And then with the mutations and everything that's there as well, it's all there, right? It's just not nuclear energy. It's magic and lifeblood and earth and Gaia and all this stuff, right? But it totally fits the bill, right? And I can't think of a better example of actually being an eco-terrorist in a video game than this one.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at it. Like, for me, when I was a kid and I played 7, I didn't really understand the climate side of it, right? Like, I was like, oh, this gigantic city is bleeding a planet of its resources, but I didn't really think of any more of that, right? Because I was so used to stories and games like that where it's like, oh, you're just saving the world. Cool. And, as I got older, I started looking back at it, and it's interesting. When you look at the ideas of Barrett, right? I know in the original, if I remember right, Barrett was said to be the leader of Avalanche. And that was the group that you were with. And to an extent, it kind of made sense. But when you play the remake, and obviously the remake is different, and I know I've gone into this in past episodes where a lot of people say that the remake is reality and the original 7 was a dream kind of thing. But
I've always heard that the remake was the original story. They just weren't able to actually do it on the PlayStation, so they had to dumb it down.
Yeah, I think the addition of that kind of Kingdom Hearts character kind of stuff in it, like,
yeah, it's weird.
Is kind of odd, and it definitely feels like a product of their newer stuff. But
for the Dementors
to an extent,
and stuff, yeah,
I get it, and I think it's interesting when you look at the Avalanche side of changes in the remake, where basically Barrett's group was kicked out of Avalanche. because his views are too extreme.
Right.
And so that's why, his little merry group is kind of out of the main avalanche. But supposedly, they still have their contacts there. Because I know, when you're with Jess, she's like, oh, many have sacrificed their lives to get here.
Right.
So,
and they do the coordinated attack against Reactor 5, right? Like they're saying they have to do it today because there's multiple attacks going on, right? And they have to do this one.
Yeah. In the remake, they try to make it sound like, Barrett might be more of an extremist rather than just we need to bring down this city kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they made an emphasis on the point where, none of it's not too much of spoilers because it's pretty early in the game, all of this stuff with Midgard and all that. But, with the plate and the reactors blowing up, people would be like, hey, what about the civilians? What about the people? And he's always like, the planet's more important. The planet comes first and there will be sacrifices. And it's like, can you agree with that? Can you, if, it's like the trolley problem, right? Is this
right one
fix? Yeah. And it's like, you, to an extent, you can't really justify it because think about the setting, right? For those who haven't played 7, basically Midgar is there's an upper plate, which is the rich and big corporations like Shinra and stuff like that. Basically your big city. And then the underplate is the slums.
Mm-hmm.
Poverty, slums, everything. And basically the night sky and the slums are just the lights reflecting off the bottom of the upper plate. So if a plate comes crashing down, you're gonna kill off a whole sector.
Right.
So saying oh, I don't care about civilians, it's a bit much because think about it, you're wiping out a whole area and you're from the lower plate,
right?
And or at least
they give him Marlene, this daughter that he obviously cares about, and he keeps saying this is for Marlene's future. But if he drops a plate on Sector 7, or there's a coordinated attack from some other branch of Avalanche, what is he gonna do with that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a little backwards, right? It almost feels like Marlene was an afterthought.
Kind of. I think it was supposed to be a reasoning and to make him feel a little more human to an extent. Because he does sound pretty extreme. When you look at it quickly, it's justified, right? You want to save the environment, you do anything for it. But when it starts getting to the point where it's tens of thousands could die, and when you look at how Avalanche is perceived in the games, they're not liked by anybody, really. Obviously Shinra and the corporations don't like them because they're destroying their profits, but even the people in the slums, it's just going to cause the police and the armies to take more from the people in the slums that they don't already have. And in a lot of ways, it doesn't benefit them at all. You could say, yeah, we're saving the world, but what is saving the world going to do for someone that can't afford the next meal?
Right.
Right? Yeah, it's good to think about 20 years from now, but in a lot of ways, it's better to think about what's going to happen tomorrow. And you could say this about stuff in real life too, obviously, but it's a hard thing to really pick. And when I was younger, I was full on take down the big city and all that kind of stuff. But now as I'm older and I've thought about it more, I'm there had to have been better ways.
Right.
And yeah, it's good to push your ideas, but not in such an extreme way where the people that you want a better world for are going to die without even fighting for it, which sucks.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like the Barrett character has always been really interesting to me. I mean, he's just the screaming megaphone. But like now I'm older, it just makes you realize, the ones yelling at the top of their lungs are not the ones that are being heard. Right? Like sometimes it takes quiet action to actually get things done. And I think that's where Barrett gets it wrong, right? Like he's always yelling, he's always screaming at things, he's showboating, all that stuff, right? And there's that one part in there too that I found really interesting in the remake, at least, where they realize that they're on TV. Like they're during one of the attacks. I think it's on Reactor 5, actually, right before the Airbuster fight. And like he realizes he's on live TV, so he decides, I'm gonna make a speech and tell everyone what Shinra is doing and all this stuff, right? And like really make a big deal out of it. And then Tifa and Cloud are like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, well, they need to know what's going on. I'm like, well, and Cloud's reaction was perfect. He's like, I bet you 1,000 gil that they muted you, right? Like, and it just makes total sense. Like, of course they're gonna just cut the feed, right? Or goes to commercial, right? Like you just screaming at everything isn't going to do anything. And just being angry about stuff all the time isn't going to actually do anything. And it really does show, right? Like, cause it almost sounds like they were just such like a ragtag group, barely able to get by until they got this silent person who just is there to get a job done. Right? Like Cloud is he's very stoic and he's like, we have a job to do. Shut up and do it. Right? You want to get this done? Just do it. Get it done. Stop yelling about it and make something happen. Right? He's very much a man of action. And I think that's where, like, obviously, like, Barrett has, like, his growing moments throughout it all, right? He becomes more human as we watch or play the game, especially, like, in the original, when he started learning about Dio and, all that stuff. But it's very interesting, at least, to see that side of it. And they've done something really interesting with the remake to make you sympathize so much with the people in the slums by like allowing you to really traverse through them all and talk to everybody, see how everyone's living and see the hardships. And then you start realizing like we just bombed everything above you, right? Like even there's a part where like I remember this part from the original where you're just going through some tunnel, you walk on a robotic hand and it's like, okay, cool, like whatever, I'm cruising through. But then like Aerith made a comment whenever you start going through the tunnels in the remake. Oh yeah, from the last bombings, this stuff fell from the plate and actually destroyed this tunnel connecting the sectors. And it's like, oh shit, right? Like this is having some really negative effects, and being that like flashy with these bombs and stuff might not be like the best way. Like it might sound like you need immediate action right now, but if they had, at least try to get everyone in the slums on board with the message, maybe it would have been done very differently, very quickly, and more efficiently, right? Instead of thinking that just going against everyone's dumb and they don't know what they're talking about, and we're doing this for them and it's the greater good and all, right? Like there's definitely some interesting like conversation thing or starters that are happening in this game. And there's a lot more depth than I remember when I played the original Final Fantasy VII.
Another thing, too, that I didn't know until way later was around that time in the late 80s, mid 90s, Japan, there was a lot of controversy with using nuclear energy and the problems that arise from it and everything. And when you look at how the energy is portrayed in 7, it's very, very similar to nuclear energy and the way that, I mean, obviously nuclear energy doesn't bleed our planet, right? Unless it, goes wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah. In a lot of ways though, like, is it Mako or Makio? Like Mako?
Mako. That's how they say it in the remake, at least.
Oh yeah. If you're in the stream, it mutates you or it mutates things in general. Like it it has a lot of weird properties and a materia, right? Like think about, when I think about them, I think how that little like nuclear bar in The Simpsons that Homer like fiddles with, that little green bar.
Yeah.
To me, that's a materia in a sense that like that's the same kind of thing.
Well, materia is condensed Mako energy, right?
Yeah.
When an atomic bomb is that.
It's like a fusion bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's, after seeing it that way, a lot of things in that game changed for me, because I was like, oh, that is kind of relatable in a lot of ways that I didn't really think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this could be something totally different, but it's like, when it comes to these kind of games, especially when there's like politics in it, it's easy to forget like where a game is made, you know, reflects that country or area's history. And I never thought about that for a long time, you know, until I kind of became an adult and looked at it with grown-up eyes. And when you kind of look that way at other games from that era in the past and even now, it really changes things. And I feel like it's kind of hard because, at least for us in the US, where game media is, you know, the Western dominant side of it is pretty strong, where, you know, I don't want to get too much into this, but that's a big complaint with a lot of people, is that the American perspective kind of overtakes a lot of that perspective from other countries and other eras. You know, like a lot of people think like, oh, the 80s, you know, game market crashed, it almost ended. But when you look at everywhere outside America, it was thriving. Yeah. And, you know, when it comes to a lot of these older games with these kind of heavy stories, we don't think about it because we never really, I feel like those topics weren't really relevant or big around that time in the States. So it didn't click. But, you know, it's interesting when you put like a worldwide perspective on a lot of these stories and themes, and it kind of changes things a little bit and kind of adds more, I'm trying to, not humanity to it, but it adds like a relative experience, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And one final thing about Final Fantasy VII I think is really interesting, that the first materia that you get, the summoning materia, is Ifrit, right? And his main move is Hellfire, which is literally dropping a massive bomb on your enemies, and it's a huge mushroom cloud, like, explosion, right? Like, that's a little on the nose, right? So, like, they obviously knew where their references were coming from. Us as kids, that went right over our heads, right? But now, like, being able to look back at it as an adult and analyze it, like you said, it's these little tiny nuances and choices. Somebody made that choice, right? To animate it that way, to call it Hellfire, to give you this insane fire demon, like, as your first summoning materia. It's you know, it's almost too perfect that way. So it just totally makes sense that that's there. It's kind of funny, actually. But anyway, now there's a couple other games that we wanted to talk about today, you know, and while Final Fantasy VII might be one of the best ways to show eco-terrorism, it's not the only one that we have out there. There's another smaller game that came out in, I guess you could say smallish. I don't know. It came out in 2021, and it feels like this game almost got completely looked over. And I kind of get why, looking at it, right? But it's called Werewolf: The Apocalypse Earthblood. Long old name. Could have just called it Werewolf.
Just words.
Yeah, it's just all words that don't really have any meaning together. But like, where Final Fantasy VII went a very nuanced way of doing this, this is very much like smack you in the face with eco-terrorism, right? Like, this is so Western, and I think this is exactly what you were just talking about, where Like there's so many cultural references that are put in these other titles that make them interesting. They make them topical and last the test of time, right? Whereas a game like this that is really just very blunt with its message isn't going to carry as much weight. And then when you start hearing about the story, it's like, what? Like it's a little kind of goofy, right? Like the whole point of this is that you're playing as, I believe his name is Callan. So Callan is a member of, or he's a proud warrior of the Fianna tribe, right? And he's a white guy. Uh, and so cultural appropriation is pretty heavy in this game, it feels like. But so, what was it? Oh, Cahal, that's his name. Due to being excessively angry, so think God of War style, right? He chose to live a life of exile. But then he goes searching for his missing daughter when he finds out that she goes missing, very much Taken style, and then comes back to his old tribe to try and find her. Well, here's the kicker, right? There is an evil corporation that is ravaging the earth, and the corporation's name is actually called Pentex. So, pentagrams, everything. Like, everything about this is, like, very much, like, really, like, hitting the fucking nail with a hammer, right? Like, do you get it?
Mhm.
Do you get it? Right? Like, it's pretty ridiculous. But, so Pentex is going through and ravaging the earth and actually being led by this cosmic force that's called Worm. And Worm is the, like, god of basically decay and destruction. When you're in this special, I haven't even told you the ultimate part of it. I mean, obviously it's in the title, werewolf, but like, so yeah. By the way, you're a werewolf in this game, so your tribe is a bunch of werewolves, right? That's kind of the whole vibe of it. And when you're in your wolf or werewolf form, because there's 3 different forms in this game, you actually see Worm. Like you get to see this cosmic force. And so, like, there's soldiers that are just walking around on these power plants that you're going through and trying to kill. And while you're a human, they just look like people. But then while you're a werewolf, you can see some of them look kind of like Ouroboros in Resident Evil 4, right? Like they're like weirdly mutated. There's a lot of weird corruption and just kind of like nasty decay all over the place. So that's like the whole point of this game. It just becomes you with your tribe fighting against this evil corporation while searching for your daughter as they continue to ravage the planet. Now, yes, this is a game about eco-terrorism, but I think the lack of subtlety really hurts this game, right? The fact that it's so on the nose, so in your face with it, it almost makes it like it makes it really difficult to deal with. And I think it's really funny that like a game like this, where it's so blatant that you are an eco-terrorist, that even in like a lot of the synopsis, a lot of the descriptions of this game, even descriptions written by the game creators, you are called out as an eco-terrorist. Like that is the whole point of this game itself, right? But yet, this is not one that is on the tongues of our government, right? And because a lot of times media does get blamed for sparking interest in eco-terrorism, in just terrorism in general, and violence. Like all the time, media's like video games, music, movies get blamed for this kind of stuff. But the ones that are kind of hitting the nail on the head a little too hard, they're kind of just like looked at like whatever, it's just a video game. Now, on the flip side of this game, one that is subtle-ish, I guess, but very light-hearted in its message, I would say. Like the gameplay really is not. It's basically a student project, right? But for some reason, it has got so much traction, despite not being blatantly out there with the message of calling yourself an actual eco-terrorist against these government or against government facilities, is Thunderbird Strike. So when I first heard about this game, I was like, what is this? Like, why does this keep coming up? And then I started watching some gameplay footage, and I have to ask myself once again, what is this? Like, what is going on? And it's it is a student project, right? Like that's really what it is. It's a side-scrolling game. It's very simple mechanics. It kind of looks like something I would make with the 6 to 9 year olds at work. Not gonna lie, right? And you're literally the mythical Thunderbird, and you're going through a side-scroller style, zapping cranes and bulldozers and pipelines. Well, not really, like parts of a pipeline, and just going through and destroying that. And at the same time, if there's skeletons of animals, you can zap those to resurrect them, bring them back to life, and then they run off the screen, right? But that's really all the game is. Like the gameplay is super, super simplistic. There's not much to it. But for some reason, this game has gotten so much traction and so much buzz in the media lately that, lobbyists and Republican senators are actually like calling this game out and trying to get an investigation on the people who funded this game for promoting eco-terrorism, which I think is just insane, right? Like, one that it didn't blatantly come out as saying like, oh yeah, like we're eco-terrorists, like, right, like Werewolf does. Yet this game is like hated on by so many people. And there's actually so Senator David Osmek came out and saying like this literally promotes eco-terrorism, and that the $3,290 in state funding provided by the Arrowhead Regional Arts Council in Duluth needs to be investigated. Like, they gave him $3,290, and you want to investigate them because they think that they're promoting eco-terrorism against the pipelines? Like, come on, man, right? Like, calm down, right? Like, it's just kind of ridiculous. And even this guy, Toby Mack, who's the president of the Energy Equipment and Infrastructure Alliance, a Washington, D.C. based energy organization, that advocates for the pipelines specifically. He mentions that this game was specifically designed to encourage eco-terrorism. So they're trying to blame and say that this game was designed to get people to actually go against the pipeline and go out and encourage them to blow up the pipeline themselves. Right. And it's like, I don't know about that. Right. Like, this is kind of ridiculous that it's out there. Like, they're just using mythical creatures from and like fighting against the earth, right? And against a lot of things that are happening out there. This is not promoting eco-terrorism, but for some reason this game gets a lot more buzz than games that blatantly say they are eco-terrorists, right? Like, I don't get it. Like, what's going on with this world? It's just going crazy.
So I never knew this game existed until like you brought it up, right? And I was looking into it and hearing that it was like controversial and criticized, and I'm just like, like, where did they find this game, right? Like, the people complaining about like the eco-terrorism side of it, it's like, did this game get big and I just never heard about it? Like, I feel like I'm pretty in touch with games coming out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, I'd never heard about this, especially when it comes to like this kind of subject. I usually like hearing about this stuff, but it's like, it's a weird hill to die on for like the people complaining about this, because it's like the game doesn't. It's not like it's going to give you ideas to like you said, blow up a pipeline or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not going to magically turn into a bird and start zapping things, right? Like, it's just so kind of bizarre that this is it. It's so like a random indie game, right? That you'd be surprised that even gets any attention, but then
it's
have
an itch.io game of all things too,
right? Like, how did this get in front of the government? Like, who dug for this game to really find this thing? Like, it just makes no sense. Where we have AAA games or giant titles that are actually talking about the negative effects, but in a more subtle, nuanced way. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. It's a video game, right? But this one, they really took it personally. And like, it's kind of crazy that like how personal they took it, where they're trying to investigate the schools and the arts, the cultural arts society that funded this, and like, right, like, it's really bizarre. I just don't understand this one.
Yeah, especially when like there's a lot of other games with controversial topics that kind of get like, I don't know, not pushed under the rug, but it's just interesting how this one was picked out of a sea of other games.
Yeah.
You know? All in all, talking about the subject, it really brought up an idea that I've been kind of wanting to get into for a while. And I think piggybacking off of this for next week's episode, taking a look at villains that have great ideas, but bad solutions, or not morally correct solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think Thanos, right? Great ideas to an extent, but eradicating everybody, like, I don't think that's really a good thing.
Yeah, no.
Possibly also looking into, you know, your character, the hero, that might not have the best intentions, right? So really, there's going to be some surprises thrown in, or at least I was surprised by one or two of these that I had kind of found in my research for this episode, which I felt like didn't fit into it. So I'm actually pretty excited about next week's episode.
Yeah, definitely sounds fun. Excited for that one. But anyway, that's going to do it for us this week. Hope you guys enjoy this little conversation into eco-terrorism and how video games are going to get you to go out there and blow up pipelines and attack the government because they're sucking the lifeblood out of our planet, damn it. No, they're not going to make us do that, right? Video games don't promote violence. I feel like we've proven that time and time again in a multitude of episodes. But yeah, anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week with some more games. But until then, bye for now.